episode of Diary of a Professional. This is Ashley,
Blue here.
and we have Joanne, our lovely guest for today. And before we even get started on why she's here joining us today, let us start our gratitudes. Okay? So I'll go first. Um, I'll say that I am just grateful for new things that are happening in my friends' lives. I love celebrating my friends, and I love when they're
Yes.
flourishing, doing well, expanding their horizons. So I am just grateful to celebrate people who I love, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah, short and
Yes.
sweet. Mm.
Yes. Ashley be so deep. I'm gonna just keep it a little superficial. I'm not gonna lie. It's feeling nice. It's summer out, and I am thankful that I feel as I get older and you kind of hopefully get to know yourself a little more. I am, and I feel like the decisions I've been making have been aligning with who I am, and I like it. And I feel like it's resonating. You know what I mean? So, whatever I've kind of little things I've changed, and then I notice people are without them even knowing that, it's something that I'm actively doing, it's all clicking. So, I like when things click, and, it feels like it's shaping out to be a wonderful summer because of it. So,
Ooh.
beginning of new things.
I hear that. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
then Joanne, tell us what you're grateful for.
Oh my God. This was so unexpected, but let me see. So many different things. Okay. But I guess the thing that I've been really thinking about lately is I'm grateful for some people in my life. I know you mentioned earlier friends. To not to I mean, recently I had to leave some kind of event, and I'll say I'm very grateful how some people that I knew, like I grew up with, the way they reacted to that particular situation, and they were there for me and they were present, and
Mm.
that made me felt like comfort, and like that feeling like, oh my gosh, like this feel there's people who actually really care about me. And oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. I'm very emotional.
Oh, that's so good.
The reaction, I guess, I thought they were gonna react a certain way, but it was the total opposite. And their reaction kind of meant so much to me. And yeah, I felt loved, I felt appreciated, I felt supported. I was like, oh my gosh, I got people who have my back. I can, they're gonna fight for us. I'm like, not really fight, but still. Yeah. So I think I'm very grateful for that. And it's kind of sad that it took me that long, to realize. I hope they're not gonna be feeling hurt or anything. But yeah, I'm sorry if it made me that situation to realize, oh my gosh,
No.
you guys really care about me. But yeah,
Sometimes it's what it takes.
I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
I love that. So we have Joanne here with us today. Okay. She is the founder and president of Beyond the Abuse. We really wanted to shed some light for this episode on domestic violence. And there was no way we couldn't speak to Joanne about it. And so we want, if possible, know about your organization, your book, and some tidbits from your personal life and pretty much overcoming it, just a idea overall about DV. So first and foremost, tell us about your book. I never thought I would be a statistic.
Mm. Mm.
I really never thought that. So actually, the book is about my personal story. Got a copy here.
Yes.
I never, like the title said, growing up, I never thought I would have been a statistic, because I was raised by a single mother, and Haitian background. My mom is Haitian. I'm Haitian. I grew up in Haiti. They raised us to be strong women, strong, independent women. And I remember having this conversation growing up, oh my gosh, how can somebody will let this happen? if it hit me once, I'll be out because that's never gonna stop. And I remember having like this strong conversation with my girlfriend, and then boom, I don't know what happened. It happened to me, and I stayed. So like I said, it's my story. I was in an abusive marriage for about 5 years. It was a lot. I think like so many different things happened in it. I was able to be out alive, and out soon enough to kind of like get my life together. I had to start so many different things over, but talking to so many different older people, they made me realize that one of the things that I had to be most grateful for is I was still young and I could get my life together and start over, because some women, they stay, right, for many different reasons, of course. And by the time like they're ready to get out, either like, they're very old or they never get out. So I remember talking to an older woman, and then she was like, "You don't realize how blessed you are because you're young enough to get out and then start over
Yeah.
and realizing the thing that you wanted for your life." So yeah, I think I was starting. So yeah, basically that's the story. At the time I wrote the book, it's something I always tell people. They really like, oh my gosh, they're always shocked. I'm a very shy person, and I really struggle with public speaking. And English not being my first language, it's always in the back of my head. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna talk and people are not gonna understand what I'm saying. But it's something like I kind of like have to work on. So then writing, I always love writing. As far as I can remember, I always I wrote poetry, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the writing was a way for me to share my story and bring awareness on the subject, because when I got out and I started going to therapy, I realized that my story, the whole time I thought I was the only one going through this, but I realized I wasn't alone. Started going to group therapy, and I felt like it was different people, but it's always the same story. So I started to question myself, like, why I never heard of that? Why nobody's not talking about this? Like, why they're not making more noise about it? And I wanted to do more. I wanted to help, and I wanted to prevent other people, to go through the same thing I went through. So that's where, then like that was the easiest way for me to kind of like share what happened to me. So I wrote about it. I had to leave out like a bunch of other details, mostly
Yeah.
because of my son. I didn't
Mm.
want him to learn certain things like through the book, because he's a special kid. But yeah, I'll say it's a pretty straightforward book, and that was a way for me to share what happened, bring awareness, and from writing the book, other ideas started coming to me, other opportunities. I started, and that's when I started doing the speaking engagement, and then I found myself talking to people like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then from there as well, like seeing people reaction, how they embrace the story, and also like other people coming to me was like more and more people. So I still wanted to do more, and from there as well, the idea of the organization came out. So that's how I started Beyond the Abuse back in 2016, to really be more involved in the community, especially in the Black community where everything is like a taboo, stigma. It's like, things are happening, but for some reason, like, we don't talk about it. And and the song come in my mind, like, we don't talk about Bruno, right? It's there,
Very
and
much.
people are making the faces and the interjection, but nobody wants to really go deep in the subject and kind of like say, let's talk about this. So how we can help, like what can we do different? And yeah, that's how I started working to other different organization who does the same thing and meeting other people. And yeah, since then, that's how my journey basically started. And yeah, and it's been quite, a journey since. So I've been here
Yes.
since.
Amen. So clearly, we are thankful that you were able to find therapy and writing, and your organization as an outlet. But while you were going through it, what did you use to cope?
probably being in denial for
Mm.
most of it, unfortunately. Well, I remember the first incident, the first time he actually, put his hand on me. I was pregnant, and I just told myself, like, oh my gosh, I know this is not happening. Like, I'm dreaming or something. And being raised by a single mother, my mom, I think she got divorced. I was about like 6. And growing up, I always told myself I will never get married if I have to get divorced, because I don't want my kids to go through the same thing I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And with that thought in my head, even as, and also being a Christian, even as bad as the situation was getting, I felt like I needed to do everything and anything that I could. First of all, to prevent my son, not to grow up without his father. And second of all, like with my personal struggle that I didn't even realize that I had then, wanted to make sure like this, because I've then I saw the divorce as a failure. Like I worked so hard for this, and like even, and you know how we do, like even when people talk to you, say, okay, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be perfect, whatever, and they're like, oh, you don't listen. And me being an overachiever, right? And I don't give up easily. Like whatever it is, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I do everything that I needed to do and that needed to be done for this to work.
Right.
Until like I had to realize like there's nothing more I can do, and I'm not responsible for this person action. I'm not responsible for them,
Mm-hmm.
and I cannot change them unless they want to be changed themselves, and I'm not God at the end of the day. So until I get to the point and also embrace that feeling, like where, in everything, all the stigma that come being in the church, where like you're gonna be a divorcee, how people gonna see you, because even if people, they don't say things, but there's always, you can sense, like the way people are saying, like what they're saying, like, like little things, how this thing goes in the church, like you being
Especially
single.
about the women.
Yeah, exactly. And being like okay with being different, being put aside, like, even if they're not gonna say it or do it verbally, but it's things that we know, like they hear, being okay, being treated like differently, even if they don't want to tell you being treated differently, but you kind of feel it. And accept the fact that I'm not a failure. My life is not a failure. This now might not have been for me at that moment, but that doesn't mean it's never gonna happen. Or even if it doesn't happen or it never happened, being okay with the situation. So I had to like, do the work and get to the point where being okay with myself and kind of like being able to move forward with my life. And, I realized I was the one stopping me and all these other things that we carry with us, but we don't always realize that we carry with us
Mm.
until we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you walk us through, were you able to come forward with people and tell them what was going on within your marriage, or can you tell us how victims are treated when they do come forward about explaining what's going on with their partner and themselves in that kind of situation?
So, to be honest, most of I don't want to even say most, my close relative, my family members, like my blood family members, nobody knew that I was going through this. Even like my childhood friend, because I grew up in Haiti and I moved here after the earthquake. Like everybody I grew up with, I don't think anybody really knew what was happening with me. I just got to the point in my life, and afterwards, also talking to everybody, that's the feedback I was getting, right? Everybody thought that, things happen, and then I got married, and I was so happy in my marriage. I just left everybody behind,
Mm.
and I decided to move on with my life. So that's mostly the saying that I got from people, right? Especially family members when they started finding out what was happening. So nobody really, nobody knew, like from my relative, what was happening. And the people that I've met from moving here, like, church people, a lot of them kind of like felt something was wrong, but nobody really like could understand what was wrong,
Mhm.
because it's not something like I would express verbally for many different reasons. Most of it was shame because I felt like I was responsible for the situation because I made the decision to be with that person. And right, that was my choice, right? And then now it's like, this is who I'm married. Oh my gosh. So I carry that with me and I didn't want to talk about it. And I, kept hoping, praying like things will get better. But I know there's like different instances where there's that time where I was in nursing school. I went to school and I had the black eyes. One of the girl had to like kind of help me put makeup on. And in that same period of time, I had to miss like so many days. I was like, they were about to kick me out. So I had to go talk to like, to explain to the school like what was happening and, different instances like that. And people were telling me, oh my gosh, like this is what you need to do, etc. But besides that, nobody in my environment really knew that it was that bad. And the different time as well where I'll call the cops, right? And then they will come. But between them coming and him calming down, he will kind of, I don't want to say brainwash, but he'll be brainwashed. He'll say stuff like, oh my gosh, like, you're going to send me to jail. Like, you're going to be responsible for me going to jail. You really want to do that? Oh, now, like, our son going to, like, have to see his father in jail. And I'll, like, think about it. And I'm like, I don't want to send away to jail. Or I want my kid to go through that and I'll change my mind. So I'll never press charges. And it kept, in the cycle, there's something they call the cycle of violence where, the person says sorry, they give, gift, whatever. They peace you out and then it start all over again. And then I can say I went through that cycle many time again. So yeah, I don't think anybody honestly really, really understood how bad this was. And even the people who has a sense that something was wrong, I think most of them, not all of them, but most of them will blame me because he was the most outspoken person in the relationship, right? He was so friendly, everybody liked him, doing the joke, and I was shy. So the stories that was getting back to me afterwards, like way after, was like I was a jealous person. I didn't want him like to get involved with other people's life. I even heard that I didn't want him to go to work because I just was like so insecure within myself. Like so many different stories. But he was the one like controlling the narrative. So, it's like, oh, my wife, like she's how she is. And people will just give me the look like I'm the crazy person, like, what she is. And like, different stuff like that until like I really think that really, really started being bad because it was like a successful event. They kept getting like bad, worse and worse and worse and worse. And most people started realizing and understanding that I wasn't the bad person. So it took like, I'll say, I don't know, a process to it.
You talk about that cycle and you talk about, that shame that a lot of victims experience. Like, how do we help combat, the shame and that stigma that, that you suffer? How do we get through that?
I'd say it's like a very particular situation. It's delicate because there's so many different dynamics. It's like, how can you help somebody who's going through something like you don't understand, right? First of all, I think like you have to have like a better understanding of what's going on with the person, why they're acting a certain way, because it's difficult to understand if you never live it or being close to it because so many different dynamics. Like I said, I think the best thing that you can do if you have somebody close to you who's going through this is just be there for that person, right? Be their emotional support. Never get tired of listening the same story over and over and over again. It's something that people will get tired, like, oh my gosh, if you're so tired of the situation, just leave. Nobody can ever just get up and leave. First of all, like we know, most people tend to like, not making on their way out because so many different things going on. And you have to be mentally ready for that until like you accept the fact, like, you're not responsible for this. You can't control this. There's nothing you can do about it. And you find the strength, like, to be able to be on your own, because not everybody can be on their own and not everybody want to be on their own. So until you get to that point where mentally, right, you feel secure enough and you ready to break that cycle, say, okay, enough is enough. This is not changing. There's nothing I can do about it. And this keep getting worse and worse and worse until you get to that point in your head that said, okay, I can do this. I'm ready to do this. You're never going to do it. And a lot of people, I say people because it happened to men and women, right?
Right.
A lot of people, they leave and they go back. It happened to me too, because after that black eye in nursing school, I left, right? It's something like most people were shocked to hear about. I actually left and I went to a shelter with my son. And he was, I think back then, he probably, how old was he? I don't think he was, I don't remember how old he was, but he was a baby. And being in school, they had a daycare at the nursing home, at the shelter. I had to put him there. And then the first day he went, pick him up, he was sick, right? He had the nastiest cold ever with green stuff in it, and I panicked. And I'm like, that's how I started missing school. So now I had to choose between, okay, am I like missing that whole year, like, or I'm going back, right? Am I gonna watch my son being sick and being alone, not knowing how to deal with this, or I'm gonna go back? And I found myself having to choose between going back and fail, right? I went back. That could have not been the greatest decision ever, but for me in the time and with the rezoning process where I was, that's the thing that made more sense, because I didn't feel I could have done that on my own. I wasn't financially ready to like be on my own. And with the shame and the guilt, I was not reaching out to any of my family members to like tell them like this is what's happening, like call my mom in Haiti, like you gotta send me money. Like I wasn't gonna do that. So I choose to go back, and thank God, like I was able to graduate, finish, and things got really bad after that still, but I still made it. But different details like that people don't really think about when you're on the outside, because you don't know really what's happening behind closed door, and not everybody gonna tell you every details of their life. So being an outside person and watching this, I think the best thing that you could do is be there. Like, tell them I'm here for you. If you want to talk, like, don't be a stranger. I love you. Keep reminding them like you're here, you're there, you love them. And I'm going to be here when you're ready to do this. Like I'm going to support every decision you make, and don't make them feel more shame or guilt, like put the blame, like, oh my gosh, like what is wrong with you, like why you keep doing this, like, because like a first reaction when you love somebody and you see them doing this, you want to still protect them, but sometimes you get tired because you don't know what to do. And I even had to understand that myself, because a lot of I didn't understand that other people were suffering from me suffering and them not being able to help me. But all of these are things that you're not going to understand until you're outside of the situation, because being in the situation, you're only on survival mode. It's like, okay, I made it to today. Am I going to make it to tomorrow? And what should I do to make it to tomorrow? This whole going on in your head. You're not thinking, honestly, you're not thinking about other people's feelings, what you do. Like, you just not, like, you just like so focused on, okay, I need to make it like this day. What's tomorrow going to look like? And, children involved, like how, like, I'm preventing my kids to leave certain things or to become this, like, it's all like surviving, like, moment. And, it might make sense for other people, but to you being in there, it makes sense because I don't know. It's just so many different things going on. It's so delicate that people don't really understand. Even you, sometimes, like being in it, you don't understand. Like that thing that I've done in my life, like now being in a better situation, I'm like, I don't know how I did it. I don't know. It has to be God, because it wasn't me, because I don't know how I made it. I don't know how I made it to school. I don't know. I was breastfeeding my son. I was telling you the story the other day. I was breastfeeding him, going to school every day. I don't know how to do that. I was in Queens. I was going to school in the city, taking the train every day. Monday to Friday. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's just like, all I can say, I was determined that I was going to survive. And I survived until the end. So,
Amen.
Mm.
yeah.
Do you have any advice to any woman or man out there who are struggling right now trying to leave their partner?
Something I always say, because I remember if I had somebody who told me that then, it would have made such a difference to me. I always tell everybody, like, you're not alone, right? You're not alone, and there's help, there's hope out there. Because I remember going through my whole situation. For some reason, I really felt like my situation was unique. It was the worst, and nobody would understand until I started talking to other people. So knowing that there's other people who are going through this at the same moment or went through this and made it, right, give you strength that, oh my gosh, maybe there's hope for me, I can do this. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to share my story, to kind of like have people seeing the afterwards, right? You can actually made it, there's hope for it. So the main advice I'll give everybody is, like, never get discouraged, right? You do it day by day. It's okay. It's okay. We all live our life at different pace, right? And it's okay. It's fine. And you're not alone. There's help. There's people who love you. There's people ready for you. When you're ready, they're already ready. They're waiting for you. So once you're ready, they're gonna be there. They're gonna embrace you. They're gonna love you. And never, never let your mind trick you that your situation is the worst situation ever, because what's happening in your life right now, they have stuff. Trust me, there's somebody who have it worse. Like, living my situation, I thought, like, oh my gosh, mine was the worst. And I started doing the DV group support or whatever, and people started coming to me. There's some stories that I heard. I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought my story was bad. Like, bro, like, God bless you. I don't know how you did it. So how bad as a day can be, there's always one person who actually is having it worse than you. So tend to focus on, whatever good thing that you have going on. Like, your kid is healthy. Focus on that, because people are in the hospital struggling with their children. They burying loved ones, like, and something I always remind myself, once you're alive, there's like life inside of you. There's hope. Like, you can make it. Like, there's no control to what you can do and where you can be. You just gotta, like, keep focusing on that. And like I said, never let your mind trick you that you're not gonna make it, or you're in the worst situation, or there's no hope. Because as long as you're breathing, there's always hope.
So, in your ordeal, I can only imagine, like, it didn't start off like the worst situation. Like, what are some of the signs that you saw that maybe other people can take to, kind of say, maybe you're in a very unhealthy and possibly violent relationship?
One time, I don't know. The thing is, like, my story went so fast. I think I heard other people saying as well, somebody wanted to go too fast in a relationship could be a sign, because I'm not saying it's going to take forever to get to know somebody. And I'm not also saying that there's no love at first sight, because some people do meet and then they feel it, and then they click, they get married, and then it's beautiful. But there's little things in, the person being controlling. Like, they want to be the only person buying stuff, right? Okay, I want you to buy this, wear this, you gotta wear this, it's gonna be perfect on you. And then if you don't wear it, they get upset. It's like, if you give me a gift, what would you get upset for? Like, what? Once you give it to me, whatever I decide to do with it afterwards, that's me. Like, you gave it to me. Like, I want to wear it, I'll wear it. I don't want to wear it, I don't wear it. So I could say, like, if somebody kind of like being so sensitive about what you do with things that they gave you, maybe you should a bit start questioning that. Like, where is this coming from? Like, why are you reacting that way? Kind of thing. And the whole, I don't want you to just talk to this person. I don't want you to see this person. We all had a life before being in a relationship. I had my friends. You had your friends. I'm not saying like I'm gonna keep acting like a single person, but you cannot tell me I have to like stop talking to everybody that I knew because you were like, oh, like I'm always cheating, like you're always cheating, like okay, like there's 24 hours in a day, okay, there's only so much cheating you can do in a day. Little things like that, like trying to control your action, like where are you, even call some. I realize like some people they tend to not understanding what control is and mix it with love because they a lot of us we so not used to be in loving situation even with our parents because like we a lot of us, I mean, honestly grew up in dysfunctional families, so we don't know what love is or what being loved feels like, right? So somebody calling you constantly and trying like, where are you, what are you doing, what are you wearing, okay, you might think, oh my gosh, you love me so much, because I heard like teenagers actually say it like, you love me so much. You want to do like, you want to always know where I'm going. Well, I'm like, okay, well, what about his life? What is he doing? Like, like he has so much time in his life to like be watching all over you. These are like little signs, kind of like, no, you cannot control every actions. That's not making no sense. And also something else that when I started researching and reading during the talking, I find out there's something called like digital abuse. And I was like, oh my gosh, like a lot of us probably we do that and we don't even realize it. Something like when it comes to social media, right? We track the person's social media and we go on Instagram. Okay, you were there at that time with these people wearing this. And I'm like, no, this is all part of controlling thing, right? You can't be like trying to track somebody every action and they don't have to report to you. You're not their parents, right? We grown. It's either we're gonna do what we need to do to make this work or we're not gonna do it. And if it takes two to tango. Like if I don't want to, you can't force me to do it. So yeah, all of these different control situation, it start always by the little things. Like I remember, and the gift thing actually happened to me. You will get so mad if you'll buy me something and I wouldn't wear it. Like literally so upset and take it so personal. I don't know why, but yeah, little things like that you might think like, oh, it's nothing, but it's actually something. Right. And then obviously there's obvious signs, the yelling. This is when things get worse. But before it escalates to the worst, there's always also the mental things as well. They'll tell you stuff like, if you leave me, nobody else gonna want you, like you're so fat, so big, right? We wanna want you. You got 3 kids, we're gonna take you after 3 children, things that will lower your self-esteem. And I can't believe like you actually sit down and dwell on it. Oh my gosh, like it must be wrong, like we're gonna want a woman like with 3 children. Like girl, I know somebody, I think she had like 5 kids and the guy still married her with the 5 children. So it's like this thing until like you verbalize them and you start talking to other people, you might never realize that. And I think that's where the isolation part comes as well, because they tend to take you and isolate you, like, don't talk about this and this and this and this. And then you get married, they move you away from everything, right? So they can be the center of your life. Yeah, so these are the details. And a lot of people, they depend on the person financially. So if you depend on them financially, it's like, okay, so now I'm gonna leave, what am I gonna do, right? I don't have a job. Or even before you get married, that could be that person, because this situation actually happened. Like even with the teenagers, that person is the one supporting you, like they giving you money, like taking care of you, even how close or not you're with your family members, what dynamic is going on to your house, right? They're paying for everything. It's just like, okay, so if I'm not with them, it's like, how am I going to survive? So, but all of this, or that's why I always say, don't let your mind trick you that there's no other way, because there's always another way. But you have to be strong enough and not always want to pick the easiest ways, because it's a struggle. It's a struggle to break the circle. It takes a lot of determination, strength, right? That's why people leave, they go back, because it's easier to stay in what you know because you're so used to the situation.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know how to make it work. You've been making it work. So now it's like you have a fear of the unknown. It's scarier to just go towards what you don't know than to stay in what you know, which necessarily not like doesn't have to be good for you. So these are the little signs. There's more signs,
Of
but they're not
course.
coming in my head right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you know somebody that kind of like on their way, I think it could be easier to kind of like stop them from being entirely enchanted in the situation, but it's still hard because, like I said, you can never control somebody's action. If they want to do this, how are you gonna stop them from doing it? All you can do is be there with them. Like, okay, I guess I'll be there at the end, on the other side, waiting for you, kind of thing. It's hard, especially living in the these moments. Things are hard for people generally. People are having a lot of underlying issue that they don't talk about, and that's mostly the reason why I really wanted to work with teenagers, because a lot of these issues, they start at an early age, things that we build up sometimes you don't even realize, like it comes from your parents, the way you've been raised, and you learn that some situations are okay when they actually not okay. Like, if somebody doesn't yell at you, they don't love you. That show that they care. Like, okay, but you got to the point where this person is not even your parent. So why are you still yelling, right? But you're so used to that situation that your brain, your mind, all your senses are used to it. So you think it's okay when it's actually not. So I think like sometimes it's easier to to prevent it than to actually break the person out, because it's like it's a way that your brain shaped now. It's like it's been molded in this, and now you have to remold it, and it's a lot. It's really a lot, and it's kind of sad. But yeah, I think I talk a lot, so I lost myself. But
No, we love it. I think that's a great point because like pretty much everything that we go through, it does start from younger. And especially if we come from, old school ways where no matter what, mom never left. And so you can see all this abuse, all this dysfunction, but your parents are still together. You don't have that blueprint to say, this is not okay. And not only is it not okay, I'm no longer going to stay in it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you never saw anybody thriving after, how do you know if it's even possible, right? If you never have somebody coming back and tell you the story, oh my gosh, I went through this, this happened, I left, it got so bad, but it got better. Like, look at me now. How are you gonna ever know it's possible because you never seen it? All of these different dynamics. So yeah, that's one of the main reason I really wanted to kind of like do this. I wanted to show the afterwards. It was so bad. It got so bad. There's some stories until now I never told, right? Because it got really bad. But it's hard for some people to actually think like it got so bad. If you will see me after, it's like, oh my gosh, like you don't look like this. Well, actually, I almost didn't make it, right? It was God grace, and I guess I was meant to be here. Yeah, so there's definitely, and for some reason, like we mentioned at the beginning, these are not things that people talk about. Nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk like, like, oh my gosh, he put his hands on me, like he joked me. But it actually really happened. And there's so much shame and guilt that you carry in it. And until this day, I don't even understand why. Because there's some things that he's, he has done that I still feel shame about it, because I mean, being there, I felt like I was part of it, and I didn't, I helped him do it. It's just there's so many different things, like human being brain is like how it thinks. It's so weird, but that's why you need to, give yourself a little more grace and give people around you grace as well, because you don't know their struggle, you don't know what they're going through. I know, like as a defense mechanism, you always want to protect you and be angry and be mad. But sometimes, like, you didn't need to sit down and kind of rethink this. So like, okay, so what was the reason behind this? You know, so many different things, so many different, and people are suffering so many different ways, and not like a lot of us want to deal with that or have the patience for it, or we just in denial. It's like it's easier to act like it's not there, like like a flower. I'm gonna like,
Yeah.
and I've done it for many different years. I got up, smile, go out. I'll just be quiet. I was quiet for so long, just being in my head. But people ask me questions, I'll just smile. But in my head, I'll be always in my head, always in my head. Like, okay, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna get out of the situation? How make this, better? Sometimes you see people acting a certain ways, you just think they're weird, but it's just like they wanna be weird. It's just whatever's happening at the moment. It's just so much. Yeah.
Tell us about Beyond the Abuse and the resources you provide there at this organization, your organization.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, Beyond the Abuse, I started alone when I started. That was back in 2016. I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more involved in the community. And one of the main reason as well is, when I started going to therapy, I think, like, I guess maybe it was probably the neighborhood I was in, but it was hard for me to find people I could relate to. Not that obviously I had great therapists and he helped me, but I was questioning why I didn't have people like me doing this, right? So I wanted to be more involved. I wanted to help, so that's how I started the organization. And the goal was to focus not only on people who went through abusive situation, but the family as a whole, because I realized that not only one person was suffering, it's just once you leave that thing, you leave a stigma in the whole family, like, brothers, sisters, uncle, mothers.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like do something that embrace all of that and also show people that there's hope. At the end, you can actually be better, get better, do better. So, and I wanted to include all of this in one place, kind of thing. So that's how the ideas came together, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do an organization, and I started researching, and then yeah, but I kind of started alone. Right now, thank God, like I have other people working with me. I got a board and everything, but I mostly started alone. And the services that we offer, we offer support. We do group support, individual support. What am I saying? Support group, individual or group, and also if we there's a services we don't provide, like we don't have lawyers or whatever, but if somebody might need these services, we'll refer them to another organization, because we started working to many other different organizations who, and everybody has like a specialization kind of thing. And also we started doing empowerment session, like financial session, relationship workshop, parenting workshop, not only like focusing on TV in itself, but anything and everything that could build a person as a whole. And about like 1 or 2 years ago, we started working with teenagers as well to kind of like build the self-esteem. And the other thing also we help people is to make a safety plan, because like I think I mentioned it earlier, a lot of people they don't make it on their way out. So it's not like you're gonna get up one day and say, okay, I'm gonna get out. You need to have a safety plan. It's like, plan this, how you're gonna do this. If you're gonna start saving money, if I have somebody that I really trust, I can call, like how is gonna be the process to leave. Am I gonna reach out to one of the national organization, or am I gonna go to a shelter? Like all different things, and you need also to have time to get your mind ready with the idea, because it's just gonna be a different environment and different things. So it's just okay. I'm not gonna be living here. I'm gonna be there. Like, am I ready for this? And it takes a lot, because it's like changes. Some people don't like changes. Some people don't care, but some people really, they stick to their routine. They're like, I wake up at a certain time, like I drink tea or coffee, I do this and that. So now, like, changing everything, especially if you have children, they're gonna be asking a lot of questions, right? Why am I not going to that school anymore? Like, where are my friends? Like kids. How are you gonna explain that to them? Like, I want to see my nanny, like, or I want to see my mom, like, all of this stuff. And then the court system, oh my gosh, can be like so draining. Getting your mind ready to tell that story over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then having people look at you like crazy, and obviously telling you, oh, if it was that bad, why you didn't leave, right? Like all of these different situations. Yeah, and then if you have children going for custody, visitation, like it's a lot. So it's just, take a deep breath, start working on that. It takes a lot. That's why, like, nobody really leave until they're really ready, because it's a lot. It's a lot. It takes years, divorce, marriage, custody, children. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. So, and also, and if we try the best that we could to respect the people's choices, like I said, not everybody's at different stages in their journey. Like, I might be ready to leave, but I'm contemplating leaving, but I'm not ready. Or, you know what, I started doing this, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm staying. Meet the people where they are and understand why they're doing this, where they are, etc. We also do the annual book fair. We started doing this. I think this year gonna be, I think, a fourth or fifth years. I think we have an annual book fair that we started doing. The idea behind it was to, first of all, encourage the Black community in reading, right? And also showing them there's Black author, because taking place in Queens and in Jamaica, it's always like everybody's invited, but it's more prone because of the neighborhood. I think more prone to like people like us. I will sound so precious when I say it, but still. And also encourage the children, showing them there's many different ways. Like, you can do this. Like, there's no limitation to what you actually can do, and encourage them. I think last year, actually, we had two children other. They were so amazing. They were great. Cute. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's always a great experience. We had a lady, I think she was like 101 or something, and she was with her daughter. Yeah, I think I have the video. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. She was like, it's something, the daughter was talking, it's something that she always wanted to do, and then they help her. So all like these many stories, and we give everybody a chance to kind of like share their stories. But me, like, I'm really passionate about stories, so that's always the best part, like, for me to hear everybody's like stories, the reason why they do the thing they do, and it's encouraging because, oh my gosh, if that person, she's like over 100, she's doing this, maybe I can do this too. Or age, there's no limit to what you can do. It's never too late, kind of situation like that. So we have that. We also do giveaways along the years, towards the year, and also at the end of the year, we have that gala that we started doing. It's like a award show gala where people get to nominate people in the community who's doing great works, and then we have an award show, and then yeah, everybody get to be with everybody. It was very good for us last year because the first year we started it, it was actually online because of COVID, and last year a lot of people we've been working with, via Zoom or anything, they got to be together. So it was so interesting because I was like, oh my gosh, I actually never met you in person, but I feel like I know you kind of. So it was good. Yeah. So we're mostly trying to do our best to be involved in the community and help people, and mostly show them like the different